Tyler, if you don't mind, let us talk about Brexit. I think, and most of the most prominent experts of the world and analysts think that the Brexit knocked down the United Kingdom's economy. Do you think that is the case?
I think we'll never be able to actually figure out the impact of Brexit because Brexit occurred almost at the same time as the coronavirus pandemic. And so we have two events that could both have a substantial economic impact occurring at the same time. It's not going to be possible to disentangle that.
Well, at least most of the official British and international analysts agree that it did knock down the British economy. According to these experts from the Office of Budget Responsibility, Britain will miss about 4% of economic growth in the midterm. Non-state forecasts are even gloomier, 6 to 7%. The nation is getting richer, but not as fast as it should. And that has its two main reasons. The first is described above, the reduction in inputs of goods, capital, and labor due to the exit from the single European market. The second reason is the reduction in exports. The EU single market gave the British access to the pockets of 500 million potential customers from Bulgaria and Germany to Cyprus and Portugal as if they were living next door. Brexit barriers to trade have cost the UK nearly 16% of its previous trade, as per calculation of the research institute CER. The economic damage is evident, but it is far away from the apocalypse that the opponents of the Brexit feared. At least two last prime minister shifts have economic backgrounds. Now, today, are citizens of the United Kingdom happy with the decision they have made back in 2016? How do the former businesses partners in Europe and the UK are doing now? Is there no desire to turn back the hands of time?
I think at this point, Brexit lasted so long. The debates on Brexit lasted so long. Remember, the referendum was in 2016, and then it took 3 years for Boris Johnson to come in and have a definitive decision on Brexit. I think at this point everyone is just exhausted from it. There isn't a majority of the British public who would want to revisit the issue. Maybe in 10 or 20 or 30 years. But for the moment, I would say that from the British public's perspective, Brexit is done and dusted.
To you, do you think it was the right thing to do, the Brexit, I mean?
I want to avoid answering that question because Brexit is still a contentious issue, and I'm more in favor of just coming out and saying good things about Ukraine than getting myself in a position where I take a stance on a divisive domestic political issue.
All right, I will ask another question, more or less not about Brexit. Many countries like Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine want to join. Of course, their economies are nothing even close like the Great Britain's, but what were the main reasons for the British nation and the British politics to be that much divided? Well, to me, radically different points of view on the country's future in terms of European Union and Brexit. What do you think? What's the reason for that?
I think there was some concern about EU law trumping British law, and that motivated some Brexiters. I think there was some concern about the free movement of people into Britain, and that also motivated some Brexiters. I think there's just, in some cases, a desire for the UK to be independent and aloof from Europe. I think continental Europe is much more in favor of integration than the UK would be. And finally, I would suggest that for countries whose economy is more developing, a country like Ukraine, Moldova, or Georgia, they would have larger benefits from joining the EU than for a country that has a well-developed service sector economy.
It is obviously that Ukraine is about to join European Union. To to you as an expert, can you please say what exactly will have Ukraine when entering United Kingdom, European Union? Is it good for Ukraine? What it will do to its economy and politics?
It would be tremendous for Ukraine to become a member of the EU, right? That would allow Ukrainian businesses easier access to the largest and most lucrative market that's immediately on Ukraine's borders. Ukraine's manufacturers could easily export goods into Europe. You could integrate supply chains between Germany, Poland, Romania, and Ukraine. It would allow the free movement of labor, so Ukrainians who received jobs in the EU could move there without any paperwork. And finally, of course, the EU often supports some of its members with weaker economies. We've seen the damage to Ukraine that's been done by the war. Joining the EU would potentially provide Ukraine with substantial subsidies to help rebuild its economy.
Okay, a provocative question. In case United Kingdom will still be in European Union by now, the country will vote for Ukraine to be joining European Union these days.
I really haven't thought of that. I really wouldn't know. The EU is so far in favor of not being in the EU. It hasn't been something I've considered.
All right. I will ask another question.
Yeah.
The markets of EU are quite tough and very well regulated. There are all sorts of regulations. Do you think it is good for Ukraine to enter European Union now with that much of regulations in these markets?
I think the regulations can often be a drag to businesses, but I also think that Ukraine is a natural trading partner for the EU. Right? Ukraine, unfortunately, doesn't have the same levels of capital that the rest of the EU has, but it has a tremendous amount. But then the reverse of that is it has a lot of labor that it could easily sell into that market. So it would immediately start to raise Ukrainian wages and raise them substantially. I know that some of the regulations can be onerous, but I think on net, the ability to enter the world's largest economy that's immediately on your doorstep is worth the extra paper.
So to use an expert, there are a lot of cons and a lot of pros. What's your choice?
I think the pluses overwhelm the cons. I think there are cons, but the pluses are just so large that it's like asking which is a larger number, 1 million or 5.
Exactly.
You know, I would say 1 million.